we're going to be recording this session so that we can share with other people who couldn't make it and who are interested in learning more about TLI. Today, you're going to hear from primarily the main way we do this is by introducing to you three of the graduates of our program, Tepeyac Leadership Initiative. My name is Christopher Pereira. I am the head of Tepeyac Leadership Inc. Tepeyac Leadership, it's a Catholic nonprofit organization which started in the United States in Phoenix, Arizona. It is now global. We're worldwide, and I know that a few people are joining. A few of you are joining from outside the United States as well. And what we do one thing. We're dedicated to doing one thing, and that is forming leaders. We form lay Catholic leaders. That's our mission. That's what we do. That's the only thing we do. So every activity, every one of our activities, events, virtual or in person, everything revolves around that same mission, the mission of investing in the next generation of lay Catholic leaders, but not for the parish. This is where our organization is unique, distinct. We don't form lay Catholic leaders to necessarily to help at the parish or diocesan level. We definitely want to be supportive and involved in our parish communities. We provide is formation, is leadership development that is meant to be lived out in the world, in civil society. So Tepeyac Leadership Initiative is the name of our program. Leadership for the world, leadership for the secular world, for civil society. We think it is important to have more faithful and committed Catholic voices at every table where decisions are made in the world, in education, in healthcare, in business, in government. We believe that these are the places where the culture is changed, where the culture is transformed, and we need to have more Catholic voices at every one of those places that are influencing the culture. That's the mission of this organization, and we're very excited that you're joining us today and that you're interested in participating in our program. Before we start with the three testimonials that we'll be sharing with you today, I just want to tell you the basics of the program. We have an admissions process. You probably have been to the website already and you have seen it. We have an application that is already available online and you can apply now. Applications started coming in. They already are coming in October 1st through November 10th. But we encourage you to apply early. Don't really don't wait. Try to apply early. And there's some things that you will need along with your application. You will need a letter of recommendation. This can come from anyone. Long can they know you enough to talk about your character, the person you are. You will need to upload your resume or curriculum vitae. This year we're asking for a photograph too. We're basically using that so that when we announce the admitted applicants, we can show photos as well. And you apply and we schedule you. You schedule yourself actually on the application portal for an interview. There is an admissions interview involved with our process. There's nothing to pay at application. When you apply, you don't need to pay to apply. You submit that, and then the interviews take place in January, early January. You go through the admissions interview, and it's the last week of January when we announce by email who was accepted, admitted into the program. That's a very straightforward process. And then the program begins the second week of February and is one night a week for 18 weeks or 5 months through the third week of June. There is a break during Holy Week, no session during Holy Week. All the sessions are live, Zoom. They're very engaging, very interactive. Won't fall asleep in our sessions. And then towards the end, you are invited to join all of your peers, everybody who is in the program with you, for an in-person retreat. We call it the Virtuous Leadership Retreat. So how does that happen? You have three options. The first option is to do it here in the United States in Phoenix, Arizona. That's where we hold it. You would travel to Phoenix. And this year, for those who registered for the retreat early enough, we have some ways to help you make it to the retreat. And then if you're outside the United States, we now have a retreat in Europe. If that's closer to you, Netherlands, we're going to have a retreat center where we're going to conduct our Virtuous Leadership Retreat there. If you cannot travel, you can do the Virtuous Leadership Retreat online. There's an online version of it, and it's a very full experience as well. That's all I'm going to say for now, and we're going to dive into our guest today, guest who will be in alphabetical order. They have been doing it all their life, and they're probably used to being called first because of their last name, so we'll just go in that order. So Paul Arias from New York or New Jersey. Paul, if you could please turn your mic on. And what I'm gonna ask, we'll start with you, then we'll go with Chad and Delphine. What I'm gonna ask the three of you is if you could take maybe about 5 to 8 minutes and tell us about your experience in the program, starting with you, Paul. And I'd like you to tell us two things. Divide up your time this way. Tell us about what it was like going into the program, when you experienced the program. What was that like? How did it fit into your life? What were your impressions, the first sessions? What was it like? What was the retreat like? Then tell us what has the program done for you. Go ahead, Paul.
All right, just making sure I have notes for that. So again, my name is Paul Arias.
I'm
I
sorry, my
have a
friend,
few
I can't
roles.
hear you. Let me see. I don't know if it's just me.
Can you hear me now? You
Oh,
guys can hear me? Okay, good.
it was my
All right,
mic.
good.
Go ahead.
No worries. So again, my name is Paul Arias. I have a few roles that I work on here in New Jersey. My main job is actually just husband and father with two young kids. During the program, excuse me, just before the program, our second daughter, or a second was born. Our daughter was born. So it was quite full, I would say, my life as I was entering into the Tepeyac program. Why I wanted to enter the Tepeyac program is actually a question that leads into the latter two. I think there are certain fights that we have to take as adults that are aimed at trying to sanctify public life or your life outside the home. And they have to be taken now so that they are able to create the stage for your own children to have at least some kind of happiness here on earth, which ultimately points to a greater happiness, above. And so when I was in this place, looking to be a father now to two children, I had a chance to encounter, Chris and his program, and I thought that it would be a great opportunity to help prepare myself, but also to be able to be connected with so many people from across the world, and that we've been able to form some lifelong friendships. So that was what the whole context of why I wanted to enter into the program. The program was excellent in that it was able to offer what I wanted. What it addressed my concerns about the future, but it was also not very intensive, that it didn't require so much out of you, given the fact that I just was serving my wife and the needs of the home. It was very helpful to see that the program provided you with the reading for primary source material of what the Catholic faith teaches about a wide array of disciplines that ought to make Western civilization, or even really a civilization that puts God at the center of it, or summaries that we had to read. But what I think was the most fulfilling part of it was actually the ability to make connections, like 1 hour connections throughout the program. One of the requirements of the program is to be able to every week meet with one of the other people in your cohort for a 1 hour or so Zoom session. just to get to know each other. And we've met so many kindred spirits, through all of this, that it really gives you a sense of hope and community. The retreat, and I think this is the latter question, was, I think, the pinnacle of the program. It follows the virtuous leadership type program, which looks at what are the classical virtues, what is leadership classically, and what are some ways of understanding your temperament, so that you know how to lean into the good talents that you're given by God, and to make that allow you to, once you know those talents, make an offering of them to God, so that you can help make this world a better place. That's what I would say is what I learned from the program.
Thank you so much, Paul. And there will be more from Paul, because after the three speakers go, we're gonna open it up for questions from you, from the audience. So hang on tight and start thinking of those questions. But we'll go now with Chad Brown from Roanoke, Virginia, also in the United States. Chad.
Thank you, Christopher, and very glad to be here with all of you today. And to the first question, what was TLI like? I think it felt like a type of spiritual and professional boot camp to me, and one that's intended to prepare faithful Catholics for their mission in the world. My experience of it was this intense 5-month period of getting engrossed in these edifying readings, of excellent speakers, and of this fellowship, and just a sense of development and growth. When Christopher had reached out to me on LinkedIn last year, his message came at a good time, and I really relate to the message of Catholic leadership for civil society. I think that every Christian must have a conversion experience at some point in time. I'm a convert to the Catholic Church. I grew up in a large, devout Mormon family, and my parents are wonderful, faithful people who love God. But there were tenets of the Mormon religion that I couldn't reconcile with. There was also moral teachings I just didn't want to accept. And so I went through this season of pride, selfishness, rebellion in my youth, essentially gave up on organized religion. And then later, my wife, who'd grown up Catholic, we had our first child, and I knew that she would need God in her life. And it was time for me to find a church. So I went to our local parish to ask about RCIA, and the deacon there gave me a copy of the Catechism for the Catholic Church and said, "Here, read this," which I did. And it's an experience that's changed my life. It's never been the same since then. And after my baptism, just developed this hunger for truth. I just wanted more of this. And so I went and joined the Knights of Columbus and became an usher and joined the finance committee and helped with religious education and took all these courses on Bible study and all these things to try to feed and nourish my soul. And I have learned you can never exhaust the knowledge and wisdom of God, but all these ways of serving the parish were great, but that's not what we're called to do, or at least not all we're called to do. At the end of every Mass, we're sent out into the world to love and serve the Lord. As lay people, this is our calling, and it's to serve God and man in the world, not just in the church. The church is where we come to get fed and nourished by the word, to rest, to rejuvenate, to worship, and then to get back out and keep up the good fight. I also acknowledge, we have problems in our church. We've had scandal. We had McCarrick. We've had frustrations, I think, with many and wanting to see our leaders to be more bold and speak more clearly. And that's something I experienced as well. But as we kind of talk about in Catholic leadership for civil society, this idea of don't leave, lead. And I think that's it's so critical. And I think any of us, if we're just honest and look around, this is the hour of the laity. I just heard this quote from Gaudium et Spes: when God is forgotten, the creature becomes unintelligible. And I think that's so true today. So TLI was like an answer to my prayer. I was feeling at the time overwhelmed. I felt kind of alone in trying to confront all these challenges, to protect my family, to fight for their future, as Paul was talking about, in this culture where we're very much swimming against the current. But in TLI, you find that you're not alone. You have kindred spirits. So I think about what I've gained from TLI. It's there's a tremendous amount I've taken from that. For one, I've gained a community of like-minded friends from all corners of the world. It's a global program now. The Zoom coffees, were so valuable, so great to get to know and just talk to other faithful Catholics who are professionals, kind of going through the similar things and challenges. There's the time together in class every week. Also gained a very memorable experience. Christopher talked about the retreat. That's always a highlight. The one we had this past year was in Nashville, and it was just a delight to meet these new friends in person, to break bread, to worship together, and to learn about virtuous leadership. I gained a mentor. I have a fantastic mentor who I still maintain contact with, someone who's a business leader, has 10 children, he's involved in all these boards, and I was just so blown away that he would take time from his very busy life to invest in me, and that has been tremendously valuable. I gained a more knowledgeable and in-depth perspective, a Catholic perspective, on many of the issues that our world's wrestling with right now: immigration, healthcare, government, business, all of those things. I gained a greater appreciation for Vatican II. Candidly, most of what I'd heard about Vatican II prior to TLI was pretty critical, and I'd never really read the documents, but there are some just truly beautiful documents that have come out of this, which have a lot of instruction and are life-giving. And speaking of reading, I gained a reading list for life. There were so many book recommendations. I must have ordered at least 15 books during my time in TLI, which I will spend many months working through those. But it's continued to benefit from that. Gained a better understanding of myself, my temperament, what virtues come more easily, what virtues are more of a struggle for me. And also gained a deeper understanding of my personal purpose and mission, which I've articulated. My personal purpose is to serve my God, my family, and my neighbor with fidelity to the truth, excellence, love, patriotism, and integrity of heart, mind, and action, with respect and gratitude for all creation and reverence for the sanctity and dignity and beauty of every human life from the moment of conception until natural death. And this has now become really a guidepost for me, something I think about frequently. And also a personal mission. That's one of the challenges for Tepeyac Leaders, is to define a personal mission, a leadership commitment after you leave the program. What will you go out and do in the world? For me, I'm working to establish a Christian business resource group at my workplace. It's ongoing work, but a worthy undertaking, and one I continue to pursue. And finally, a plan for life. I think every Catholic should have a plan for life, which is just, what are the daily habits you perform and build to maintain a life of holiness? Morning prayer, daily mass, rosary, Bible readings, examination of consciousness, all of these things, but just having that guidance to really be intentional about forming that. So that's my top 10 list. So I hope that is helpful. But again, glad to be here with you, and applaud your interest in the program.
Thank you so much for that, Chad. And last but not least, we'll go to the United Kingdom with Delphine Chui. Delphine.
Thank you, Christopher, and hello from London, everyone. So yes, I was part of the noon track, which was actually 6 p.m. for me. So it was every Wednesday, 6 till 9, and it was such a joy to be part of that and to have that in my diary. So the way I found TLI, actually, Christopher reached out to me, and it was such a godsend because I had recently reverted back to my Catholic faith. I used to be a mainstream women's magazine journalist, so you can imagine how that fit with my values. And I really experienced cancel culture very heavily from my fellow editors. I lost work, I lost friends, and it really had me in this place where I just felt lost. And the problem is when you don't have community or fellowship, or you're not aware of the resources and actually our legal protections as Catholics, you just give up. And I think I went into this position of, okay, I'm going to just retract from the world and figure out what I can do quietly with my pro-life views. And it was a difficult place to be. I felt very alone and I didn't really know where to turn to. So it was a real blessing. And the past year, God has just really continued to bless me. So yes, my background is in magazine journalism, and now I have my own charity, which is a befriending charity for older people, but that actually runs secularly. So I was running that before my reversion back to the faith on the side. And I also now work for a Christian legal advocacy organization, which really helps persecuted Christians or people experiencing cancel culture. And it's been a really lovely 360 that God has put me in this position to help people who are going through things like I went to, but to such a huge degree. You know, we have people who are affirming biological truths on Twitter, and they're being accused of hate crimes and all such things, which is complete insanity to me. So TLI was just incredible at equipping me with a fellowship, like you've heard from Paul and Chad, and it's just really wonderful because it lifts you up and makes you realize actually there are way more of us than you think, because what the world wants you to think is that you're alone and that you need to hide these beliefs and these truths that you know to be real. And it gives you the confidence to bring that into your workplace and also personally as well. I personally struggle with good debating skills. I can either get very emotional or I just want to retreat. And I think this has been really helpful at building up my confidence. And I've also made an incredible friend who lives in Atlanta, and my geography of America is terrible, but I hope to see her at one point. She's another kind of content creator, and we're already talking about potentially doing something together, a podcast or something or other. And I also met someone else who's doing the course, and he's based in London, so we're thinking about collaborating in person as well. So it's just been so great. Like you're called part of the TLI family, and it certainly feels like that. Even people I didn't get to have Zoom coffees with because we weren't in the same track, I feel very close with, and I know that if there's something I need, I can reach out to whoever, because you meet people from all different fields. And I'm trying to remember some of my favorite talks because there are just such great speakers, and it was quite poetic because the organization I work for has an American umbrella, like it's under an American umbrella, but I work for the international arm. And actually one of the founding CEOs did a talk, and I was like, oh, this is great. I get to hear from the American counterpart. So there are just really good speakers. They will help to inspire you. There's always times for Q&A, and I found that really helpful to just have that real presence with someone and get to ask them and share our experiences. It is challenging in like a good way, you know. So like I would think, oh, because by the time 6 p.m. came on Wednesday, I'd worked a whole day, and I was thinking, oh, do I have the energy for this? But you just find it in you. I think Jesus multiplies that for us, because everything you learn is really interesting, and it's all put into different topics. So I think Chad talked about immigration. There was like a pro-life one, gender, everything that you can imagine is going to get thrown at you in whatever industry you work at. And even if, because at the time I felt very unequipped about politics and things like that, but it really helped me to gain an understanding and an awareness, and it got me quite pumped up. I was like, maybe I should run for council over here in London. So it's definitely just a good confidence builder, and I think the network is so important. So I hope those are the questions. I'm trying to think, what else did Christopher want me to cover? But,
that was very good, Delphine. I think you've
perfect.
done
Okay.
well.
I'm out. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. No, definitely save some other thoughts for the Q&A, but I think that was a very good summary. And it's so great that we can do this. We've been blessed with these amazingly diverse communities, diverse in every sense and in all the good senses, not the way that the word diverse is used sometimes. But, you know, our classes are filled almost in the middle, half and half with men and women. And from all ethnic backgrounds, we really, TLI does reflect the universality of the church beautifully. Cultures, areas of expertise. Every year we get accountants, lawyers, educators, teachers, business people, people in their for-profit or non-profit or finance arena. So yes, it is true. It is a very diverse group. And then when you're part of the network, you have all of these experts that are part of your TLI family. So anyway, I won't talk more. This is really about the Tepeyac Leaders. This is what we call the graduates of the program. By the way, we have a few others in the room who are Tepeyac Leaders. So shout out to Rene Carmine Jones from Austria, who's also in the room. And let me see who else. I know somebody else, my friend, I know I saw, we have, well, of course, Wendy Cano from Mexico City, joining us from Mexico City. And we have Marco Primavera from Italy, of course. Thank you for being in the room. You can look at them. You can probably look them up on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, and they are also graduates of the program. So we're going to dive into the Q&A. So the way we do this is, if you have a question, simply type your name on the chat box. And that's how I create a list, and I begin calling on you, and you can ask the question, turn your mic on and ask the question, whatever the question might be. If you don't have questions, if you go shy on me, I can always come up with questions myself because I used to be a journalist. So it's your opportunity. Otherwise, I'll take the time and I'll ask the questions. I have a lot of questions. We have one from Maria Crisia Belizaleo. I'm sorry, your name is all together. So please come up and tell me your name. And then Paul will be next.
Hello.
Hi, is your name Maria Crisia?
Yes, my name is Maria.
Maria, go ahead and ask the question, Maria.
Okay. Actually, this has been like a ups and down. So I just wanna ask one question about how do we how to say it? How do we present ourselves as a true Catholic in front of a lot of various people out there? Because I'm sure you guys have met different people from different beliefs, different cultures, like different social, how to say, social groups, whatever it is. And we cannot choose to always be around Catholic people, you know? So it's kind of tricky for me to actually be there to, you know, at the same time I have to hold on fast into what I believe, of course.
Of course.
I mean,
Maria, can
yeah.
we ask you where you live in the world, where you are located, so we get a
Okay,
little more
sorry about
context?
that. Yes, I have to introduce myself first. Hi, everybody. I'm Maria from Jakarta, Indonesia.
Indonesia. Okay. What
Yes.
is the percentage of Christians or Catholics in Indonesia?
We have like 272 million people, and we have 8 million Catholics live here.
Okay. All right. So it is.
Yes,
It's
I
a
don't know the
small group.
percentage, but maybe that's the number.
You know, your question is a question that we get very often. I think I will address this one because the truth is
Okay.
that the response is very specific to where you are. I mean, the first response is that you have to be who you are. You have to live an integrated Catholic life. You're not going to stop being Catholic anywhere. You'll be a Catholic no matter where you are, right? You are a Catholic in every aspect, area, dimension of your life. You are a Catholic. That's what we are supposed to be. Definitely at work. But if you would have said that you lived in Brazil or Mexico or Peru, in Portugal, in places that are primarily Catholic, then that means something different, right? In Peru or in Spain, just about everybody that you run into will be a Catholic. It doesn't mean that they practice the Catholic faith, right? So over there, the context is different. You have to really think about how you show this person who maybe identifies his or herself as a Catholic. How do you show them or model for them the beauty of living the fullness of the faith, right? But in your case, you're encountering people who are not necessarily Christians, right? So I think that a good witness and testimony is also the first thing that you have to do. You have to use wisdom, and you're not going to pull up a Bible or a rosary in the middle of a boardroom and interrupt everybody, right? You need to know when to open the door to you so that you can share your faith. I'm not asking the panelists to go through this one because it's not directly related to the program itself. But let me tell you what we do teach at the program. At the program, we teach how to best respond or strategically respond to the ways in which the faith is cornered in society, particularly in the workplace, right? Delphine talked about cancel culture, and Paul and Chad talked about all of the things that we need to protect our families from, everything that's out there. That's what we definitely address through the program. I hope it was helpful. We'll go to the next question. And that was from Tol Tonasi.
Hello,
Paul?
everyone. Name's Paul Tanachi. Christopher, thank you for organizing this here, and thank you for the alumni from the TLI program that are sharing so much here. I asked this question of Christopher when he spoke before the Catholic Young Professionals Association of New Jersey. I myself am from New Jersey too, so hi, Paul. But I used to work for a Fortune 500 company. And I remember there's a number of challenges that I encountered because they go for some international scoring programs that assess their multiculturalism, that want to compel certain types of speech, and they give the issue of like, for instance, I, as a full-time employee, I used to be in executive management leading a dining program for a university in North Jersey. They signed me up automatically upon becoming an employee that a portion of my income was going towards supporting LGBTQ plus IA efforts. And I don't subscribe to that. Don't believe my money should be going to some of these efforts without me, necessarily agreeing to it, some sort of legal document, binding agreement and such. I wonder how the alumni kind of reconciles that. How do you live in the world but not be of the world? Of course, we can make compromises. What's too much? What's too little? The question is not directed to anyone in particular, but I'd be interested in anyone who's present to share what they might say. And I would have a second question if no one else has that, but I think
yes, hold on to that one, Paul. Hold on to the second question. We'll go in the same order, and we'll start with Paul. Paul, how, if in any ways, the program has shed a little light on how do you deal with these countercultural experiences that Paul just described?
Thanks, Paul, for commenting on this. If you'd like, please reach out to me via LinkedIn. Since we're local, I'd love to have more conversations about this. But I think one of the areas that the TLI gave me to sort of learn how to deal with this particular problem, which is the coercive use of collective wealth to fund the kinds of social experiments that are contrary to what we know as reality, or even things that are dubious in nature, is something that requires like organizing. And so through the TLI experience, I was able to, speak with a few other, some of them are lecturers, some of them are other members of the TLI, who are interested in creating something that allows for countervailing power at the level of the board, right? And what you're referring to is basically the S part of the ESG related framework. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but basically that's led me to offer as a gift to God, part of the TLI part, a commitment, a kind of framework that helps people who eventually get to the boards to provide analytical justification for why you do good things and you avoid bad things. And so that's the way I would describe the point of it. But since you're nearby, I'd love to have more conversations about this. Part of it, of course, will be to collect stories, both from people, but also from business people that are looking to guide the profits of business in the service of a sturdy and a well acknowledged vision of the common good. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you so much for that, Paul. We'll go now to chat.
Thank you, and Paul, appreciate the question, and Maria as well. I see there's kind of a connection in those questions, and the way, what comes to mind in thinking about it, this is a challenge we all face. How do we, how do we live our authentic Catholic selves in our public lives as well as our private lives? And the passage in the Gospels comes to mind where the calling of I think it's the Apostle Thomas, where Jesus says, here's a true child of Israel. There's no duplicity in him. This concept of not having duplicity within us, I think, is a very powerful one, and it's a challenge for me as well as everyone else. When I think about steps I've taken to confront this, for one, having a active prayer life and continuing that in public as well. So if I'm at a lunch with a client, I will often ask, hey, is it okay? Can I say a prayer? Can we, ask for grace before this meal? A way of just practicing my faith publicly. In my workplace, and this is kind of related to my leadership commitment, but when I was confronted with similar challenges, things I saw that were decisions being made that were contrary to my faith, I think of, many corporations, for example, had adopted the pride, colors and logo, or and their corporate logo, and that's something that I encountered, as well as in the wake of the Dobbs decision here in the United States. There was a number of corporations that were extending travel benefits, for example, for reproductive health care. There's a couple examples, but when those things come up, for one, I think it's important that we make our voices heard, and that doesn't always end in an immediate effect, but I think we have to think on a cumulative level, it will have an impact ultimately. And so
Chat, I think we lost audio. Looks like chat has frozen. He probably will be with us soon. We can go into Delphine. Delphine, if you wouldn't mind answering the question.
Absolutely. Paul, I really feel you on this one. In London, we had this time when the magazine industry wanted us to sacrifice our salary for BLM, and we could it was opt-in, but you were made to feel very socially bad if you didn't. And I was constantly getting in trouble for not having the pride flag in my signature, for not having my pronouns in my emails. And it leaves you feeling very socially ostracized when you don't, and you feel like you're the naughty child, and you're not, So 2 of the weeks during TLI, one was on religious liberty, and the other one was about Catholics in the public square. I found that quite helpful in just understanding how to be Catholic and Maria, you'd probably find that useful as well, like in public arena, and also you can bring that into your own industries, but also understanding our own legal protections. So, for example, in England anyway, in the law, like your religion is a protected characteristic. So exactly what you said, Paul, about compelled speech, that goes against your protected characteristic. And when we know this language and we're equipped, we're able to answer in a way that, like human resources, what can they say? And there's a lot of this happening at the moment where people are treating guidance as law because we don't understand the law. So I think it's very important for us as Catholics, Christians, to know our rights so that we know how to respond.
Excellent responses from all three of you. Thank you so much. We'll go now to Luciano. What is your question, Luciano?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Luciano. I'm from Brazil, but I'm currently living in Sweden for 3 years now. And it's sort of related. So it's related to this like existential kind of question, like how we fulfill our lives with our Catholic faith in the day-to-day activities. And my practical question is the following. So do you have some sort of pool of ideas or projects or open source projects that one could collaborate maybe afterwards? Because the practical thing is, so I, as everyone or most of the people, I hire myself for 8 hours a day for a company that pays my salary because I need to support family. But I would be very happy to employ my skills and time for like a more religious initiative, I would say. So that's the question. I mean, is there projects that we could collaborate? That's one question.
We'll let the guests, the speakers answer the question, Luciano, but I'll tell you that what we encourage first each participant to do is to come up with their own individual leadership commitment. So sort of a personal project. That's kind of like what you take away from TLI. What is it that you're going to do, that you're going to take on? Your one project could be something where you enlist the help of others, and sometimes that's what it is, and you collaborate with others, right? But we'll go with Paul now.
I was just going to comment that what I've seen is even in the main channel for all of the TLI participants who've gone for, since the program started, every once in a while you'll have somebody come up with their inner position now that they can propose, asking help for a well-developed project that has a business plan. And now they're asking for the kind of like volunteer help that can help them get across a certain hurdle. So there are going to be quite a few opportunities that regularly pop up that aren't necessarily matters of religion, but they are things that are informed by the Catholic faith to sanctify and to help, create like, virtuous, engagement in civic society is the way I would put it. And it doesn't mean that they're necessarily secular. It means that they are still things that are guided by an ethos that is formed by faith and reason and revelation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Paul is referring to the platforms that we have for the graduates to interact with themselves by cohort, and another one by regardless of which generation of the program you're part of. This is where all the Tepeyac leaders come together to exchange prayer requests, opportunities to collaborate, and things of this sort. We'll go with chat now.
Yeah. So can I ask the second question? I have two. Yes.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Lucian.
It's a quick one also. Do you have like deployments of people who join as a couple, like husband and wife participating?
Okay, so that's a question for me. That we have had it more than once, a couple of instances where a couple they together were excited to do the program at the same time. They both applied and they both participate. We had an instance where this couple would join in the same track every night from different rooms in the house, different computers. Right. They wanted to do it that way. And then recently we had another one where they sat together in the same computer, and that's how they wanted to do it. So yes, we've had, and then you're welcome. Nobody is guaranteed admittance into the program, so everybody applies as an individual. But we're not our admission process is not seeking to create an elite or anything like that. To be honest with you, we're trying to filter the bad apples. That's what we're trying to do. We at TLI, we don't have time for rebel Catholics. We cannot have discussions that put into question the validity of the teachings of the church. We all have to be at that level where we all accept all of the teachings of the church. And that's what the admissions process tries to get at. So that answers the second question. But I'll still give Chad and Delphine an opportunity to respond to any of your two questions. Chad, do you have anything?
Thank you. And Lucian, I apologize. I had lost power right there and I was coming back on. And could you just quickly summarize the first question again?
The first question in practical terms is, I was thinking, is there like a pool of projects or ideas that you have in a backlog or something that we could collaborate, either paid or voluntary, something that has more like virtual reasons for us to work with?
And I think, yes,
other than my 8 hours of work? Yeah.
Yes. And I think that cause is always, as far as projects, there's definitely a lot of need that's out there. So I think there's certainly amount of, think about what's going on in your own life. I mean, the leadership commitment that I made around establishing this Christian business resource group for my workplace grew out of what I was encountering personally. And I felt that we needed a place to have Christian voices within the workplace. I had just started a prayer group to get fellow teammates of mine in the workplace to come together once a month to just read the word together, pray. So I think some of that develops organically, but I think the harvest is great out there. If you look around, there's certainly a lot of areas, and I think as you go through the program and we cover all of these different topics, what's going on with immigration, what's going on within the government, with healthcare. There's so many issues that our culture is facing today that need strong Catholic voices. So part of it, I think, is just listening, see where you can take your talents that you have and kind of invest them into addressing some of this. And we also talked in the program. There was Jose Maria Escriva, was a saint that I got better introduced to through the program. But this idea of just being excellent in our work, when we are excellent in the work that we do, I work in banking, but if I can be an excellent commercial banker, that is serving God also in giving the best of myself, in every aspect of my life. So I think that's certainly applicable as well.
Thank you so much for that, Chad. Delphine, I think I finally got at the heart of the question is, what sort of collaboration opportunities come about as part of TLI through the program or after the program?
Sure. Yeah, Luciano, I have the exact same desire for this real Catholic economy. You could just plug into this network, and if you're looking for work or you need a freelancer or something like that, I am trying as much to Christify as many parts of my life. I think my experience has been that since having participated in TLI and having access to the Telegram group, which has people from all different tracks, because obviously I was only on one track, you get a lot of exposure to people in different industries, and it's really easy to connect with someone who you have the similar skills to either see if you can collaborate or if you've got an idea to do something new. So I certainly see good opportunity for that, and just to keep building it.
Thank you so much for that, Delphine. Paul Tonacci, your second question, please.
All right. Thank you for the wonderful answers before to the first question. I think it might be safe to say for so many of us that there's a lot of information coming at us, and it's incumbent upon Catholics to maintain a prayer life, but also to be civically engaged. With the amount of ways in which we could plug into what's happening around us, both locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally, I find myself perpetually glued to too much news, too much stuff going on. And then you become something else altogether that might not be entirely Christ focused. That might be the right tag to describe it. So it's something I'd always ask, but never really have had the forum to do so before, as we have here today. But like, what would be the resources, if any, that you would say, especially through the TLI program, are good? Because there's a lot of superfluous stuff out there that likely we don't necessarily need to, to take in. What are reliable sources that you would say, there's a lot of other noise out there, but these are good things to look at to kind of help maintain a healthy balance between the walk as a Catholic and the walk in this world that we do simultaneously?
Thank you, Paul. Panelists, please keep the question in your mind. I just want to say something. I made a terrible mistake. We have a cleric within us in the room, and I didn't acknowledge. I'm sorry, Father Shenasu, for not doing that. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Please stay with us. We're going to be wrapping it up in about 8 minutes. I would love for you to give us your blessing before we leave. So thank you so much. And let's go into reverse order. Delphine, you want to be the first one to address it?
Yeah, sure. I, again, had this exact same problem coming from mainstream journalism. And I think my first initial reaction was, I just don't want to engage with modernism or culture at all. I'm just not going to look at anything. And, but God has placed me here in 2023 and in London. So I think it is our responsibility to be aware but not overtaken by these kind of news. And I try to balance it by finding very good like conservative publications, very good Catholic publications, and also still keeping an eye on, like, for example, the BBC here, which is meant to be neutral, but we like to call it the British Brainwashing Corporation. So I think it's important to have a balance and also to really have the boundary of like, okay, I'll look at a little bit of news for 20 minutes and then that's going to be it, because you can just get so depressed over all of it. But I think it's balancing out, and I'm still finding good resources, but again, I'm really happy to connect on LinkedIn and we can share any resources that we find.
Thank you, Delphine. Chad?
Appreciate the question, Paul. A couple of things come to mind. One is just the concept of priorities, rightly ordering your life. And so for me, that would be God, family, health, work, community. You have to kind of balance out the priority that you place on things. One of the topics that we were introduced to in TLI was this idea of leisure, and there's a fantastic book. I think it's Father Joseph Piper, or I may not be pronouncing that correctly, that's on leisure, and I read that this summer and just really found it very meaningful. So in worship being the highest form of leisure, but there is something to be said for silence as well. I think that's the power of a part of the power of adoration is sitting in silence with God. So I struggle with the same thing you do. I just inundate myself with too many news sources, and it can be pretty depressing and overwhelming. So you have to figure out how to balance that correctly. Specifically too, it was as far as one resource that I've been introduced to throughout this program, who I think is the sponsors, Catholic Vote, which is, I think that's a good source for kind of a Catholic perspective on some things that are happening within our world. So that may be one to, if you're not familiar with that, they have a publication, The Loop, that may be worth checking out as well.
Thank you, Chad. Paul?
Don't have anything particular to add, but I was going to comment that yes, Leisure, the Basis of Culture by Joseph Pieper was very formative, and we had a very good lecture on it. Basically, what are you working for is a very important question that a lot of ink has been spilled on in many publications. It's worthwhile getting an idea of what we're really made for and what toil ultimately is for, and reading that will help to sort of reimagine what are some possibilities.
Thank you for that, Paul. Joanne, what is your question?
My question is, Is this class? I've been a catechist for 14 years at the church, and my question is how I can invite when I'm at work, right? I was working in the district with my daughter. I only have one child, and I thought that marrying somebody for a different religion, a Protestant, wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be an issue. But unfortunately, it does. It does makes a difference. My question is how this class can help me, like, educate me to invite current Catholics to do their sacraments, to finish their sacrament, because some kids wouldn't. My concern, I'm always kids because I'm a mom, right? So how can this class will help me or educate me to invite kids to actually finish their sacraments? For example, their confirmation. Many kids have their first communion done, but their confirmation, they don't have it because they don't have that faith formation. So that's my question.
Sure, Joan. So the Tepeyac Leadership Initiative Program doesn't necessarily address this because what we do is we train primarily Catholic professionals to be leaders out in the world in civil society. So I think that what we want is we want to create, build and invest in relationships where we can create opportunities and have doors opened up so that we can have those talks, those important conversations, right? If you're a Catholic, why haven't you done all your sacraments, right? How is your prayer life? How often do we ask our friends this? When was the last time that you went to confession? I think that we build up to get up into the place where we can get to that, to having those conversations by first having a good witness, living a life of good Christian witness, and then becoming esteemed members of our community. We talk about these things in TLI. Then those opportunities that you're looking for will naturally occur and open up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Unfortunately, we are running out of time and we do have a commitment to start and end on time. So I want to ask Father Chinesu if you could unmute yourself. Thank you for joining us again. I'm very honored that you were here today. Hopefully, you're going to send us a few of the members of your parish to apply for the program, Father. But would you bless us, give us your blessing in parting?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The Lord be with you. And
with your spirit.
May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace.
Amen. Thank you so much, Father. Thank you so much. Friends, that is our open house. And with that, we're going to dismiss all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Please go and tell everybody. We're going to be posting this video, the recording, into all of our social media channels, probably included in the newsletter as well. So this is the window. We accept applications for admissions to TLI until November 10. And we hope that all of you will be part of the next generation of Tepeyac leaders in 2024. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you to all our panelists as well for being here. Thank you. God bless.